Okay, we're back to talk about Widow's Bay, episode 8, titled Your Baggage on Apple TV. This episode written by Emma Ketchum and directed by Andrew DeYoung. Tom, Wick, and Patricia believe the curse over the island is gone, so Tom buys tickets to a Boston Red Sox game and plans to surprise his son with a trip off the island. But when Tom returns home, Evan confronts him about the photo of his mother from when Evan was a child. Tom confesses that she lived for a few years after Evan's birth, but she suffered a stroke that forced Tom to put her into a mental institution on the island. She later would die of a brain aneurysm. At the Historical Society, the Boogeyman mask has been stolen, and that same night, the Boogeyman shows up at Patricia's house and begins chasing her through her neighborhood. She tries to stop at Chris's house for help, but after admitting she made up all those lies in high school about her escape, the ladies in the house force her back outside. The Boogeyman chases her to a gas station where Patricia lights him on fire, but he is still able to kill the gas station attendant and wound Sheriff Bachir before Patricia shoots him. Patricia remains convinced that the boogeyman could come back at any time, so she personally witnesses his cremation. As a major storm approaches Widow's Bay, Wick learns what has happened that night, goes to Tom's house, and tells them that the curse is not yet over. We did get a lot of baggage unpacked this episode, certainly from Tom, and seemed like also from Patricia, who admitted to a few things. So I think that's sort of the direction we headed here, but it seems like we also went back to something that happened 25, 26 years ago at this island where someone, we don't know necessarily who, is out stalking people, particularly Patricia. So is this the
Yeah.
curse? Is this someone stole the mask? What do we think here?
Well, I was curious. I mean, well, so first of all, I knew we were going to get the boogeyman at some point,
Hmm.
right? I thought they laid that foundation to where, okay, well, but we're going to get boogeyman at some point. What surprised me a little bit was, I guess that I do have these questions about how this occurred. And I guess I don't know how much we should get caught up on it, but we should mark the questions given what we're doing here on the podcast. Yeah, who stole the mask? Well, I presume just it was the boogeyman. So for me, it was more a question of like, well, how did the boogeyman get out? You have the scene where it's like he got out of his house or whatever. We've been previously told, maybe in an urban legend kind of way, but given this show, that means it's probably true, that they couldn't kill him and they like encased him in cement or something.
Hmm.
So, yeah, what happened there? And I don't know if that's the kind of question we're going to get an answer to or not. But any thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, this is it's interesting why, if you're Patricia or you're the sheriff or you're anybody else that's involved in the situation, they did not take off the mask to see who this was before, they cremated him, which I thought was an interesting choice and certainly purposeful that they did it that way. And so, would this be some random person who's playing a trick on somebody? I don't think you can go that far when he's like literally stalking somebody stalked before and going and doing and all these murders. So I do also believe this was the boogeyman, but we have the original boogeyman, but we have absolutely no context of how he was let out of something he was apparently buried in, unless there's some component where something about the house being opened or someone entering the house. We saw some of this where Evan almost went in. It looked like the door had been broken down and went to that house. So somehow, some way, I don't think it was had to do with necessarily the curse ending, but somehow, some way, the boogeyman has been set free from where he was.
Yeah, or I mean, if there is some connection, I think this is a possibility where maybe what we'll get next time is a sort of investigation into what did occur here.
Yes.
Maybe, maybe. Because Wick at least seems to be drawing that connection between the boogeyman and the thought that no, the curse isn't over and so on. So I wouldn't be surprised by that. The other possibility is, man, it's just kind of a one-off, and it's fun. We kind of have been talking about this boogeyman, and yeah, the fact that the boogeyman showed up here and was stalking Patricia does indicate that the supernatural stuff is still occurring. We're not past that,
Yeah.
but maybe you just kind of leave it there and we move forward. I don't know. I guess my question is whether it relates at all to what we were talking about last week in terms of whether things are going to meaningfully hang on the bloodline not being over, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what the guy said last week. I can't even remember his name now. What, Richard?
Richard
Um,
Warren. Yeah.
yeah, we thought, well, when if you take me out past the line and I die, and then the bloodline will be over and the curse will be lifted. That always seemed a little too simple, and we explored some ways last week, even about like what would that mean, because why did he make this pact with the dark god of the island or whatever in the first place?
Hmm.
And if that's over, I think I asked the question last week of whether that makes things better or worse. I don't know. We know for sure. Um, but that was one question we asked was, okay, well, what if he's wrong about him being the last of his bloodline? And already last week, I was wondering if maybe the boogeyman might be connected to that. So that's one way they might go, I suppose, but we'll see.
Yeah, I've seen a lot, even more than we had just in the short time before we recorded last week. A lot of speculation about that bloodline question. This raises the question of the boogeyman coming back. Of yeah, as Warren died, did that somehow help resurrect this boogeyman or activate it in some way? Wouldn't necessarily explain how he got out to your question, but there does seem to be a lot of speculation that yes, there is someone of that bloodline still that remains. I've seen people then going back and they're sort of eagle-eyeing the paintings on Tom's wall and how they connect to the other things that we've seen in the course of the series and stuff that we saw from 1702. So there's just a lot of dots to connect that sort of show us that something that they thought, well, certainly what they thought was ending is not ending. But if it does have any connection to that bloodline, we still have a ways to go before we figure out who that is and what has to happen for it to actually stop.
Right. Yeah. And I think we were talking about this last week of the question of whether the young girl fell out of the boat or jumped out of the boat or whatever back in 1702. I do, I rewatched that scene and we don't see that happening, but I think it is a reasonable inference to make, given how the show ends with that painting with the girl in the water, that
Hmm.
that's what that is a painting of. I think that's a reasonable inference to make, or at least that's a kind of guess or hypothesis. I don't know that that's been confirmed. And then, if you want to go further down the rabbit hole, yeah, it would make sense. Maybe we analyze all the paintings or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm going to do that. I'm not sure. This is a broader question, I guess. I'm enjoying the show a lot. We've talked about this before, but it's like I'm primarily enjoying the show as a comedy for its humor. And then secondarily, I'm enjoying it for the way it's playing with horror tropes. And then the mystery is tertiary would be the word for me, I guess. What about you?
Yeah, I do like I mean, many, many homages paid to a lot of things that have come before in this show. I put here in our notes. I mean, the kind of middle 50% of this episode is basically uh, Halloween, the movie. I mean, that's exactly
Yeah.
what it is. And apparently, actually, the stunt actor who played the Boogeyman actually was in one of the Halloween movies recently or something. So there's a lot of connections. That's exactly what this is. Patricia running house to house. Um, the funniest part of this episode is Patricia, pointing the shotgun 1 inch away from his head
Yes.
until he's cremated, which is like a thought that every person's ever watched a horror movie has ever had is like, why don't you stay on top of him and make sure he stays dead, and not just leave him leave him
Yeah.
alone. So I just love that bit and that sort of homage to Halloween and Jason and lots of other sort of slasher films we've had over the years.
Yeah, I thought it was great. And definitely Halloween in particular, which it's interesting because I'm not really a Halloween guy. I mean, I know people who are way more into that
Yeah,
franchise than I am, like including like Andrew Grievous, who like wrote a book,
yeah.
interviewed a bunch of people. You
That
guys
that's
go
the
check it out.
that's
It's
the
called
seminal
Horror
that is
Haddonfield.
that is horror in our house. Like that is where it started. What you compare everything to Halloween franchise, that's our number one.
So you too, yeah. See, for me, I was always just like kind of meh, fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't really do it for me. I haven't seen them all. I think I have seen the first two on that one, but it was like it kind of felt like Halloween 2 was just Halloween some more again, and it doesn't really do it for me in a way like so. But what's okay? Here's what's interesting is at least for me, I thought as a portion of this episode of Widow's Bay, it was more effective for me,
Yeah.
also at the horror level, which I thought was interesting because it made me realize that like part of my issue with Halloween is it's just okay. I get what's scary about Michael Myers as this almost I don't know, just unstoppable force of death coming at you. And there's a way in which the fact that he just slowly walks towards you and never runs is makes it scarier or something, you know? And it's like no matter what you do, it just keeps coming and it's like
Yes.
I get what's scary about that, but it's so protracted if you're watching a 90-minute film or longer to me.
Yeah.
Whereas here, for it just to be the one instance of the boogeyman going after Patricia, um, I don't know. And then I mean, this was some of my favorite humor in the show so far because I think it does directly relate to something about that horror premise as well. You know, you can't seem to go the guy. Well, what if I douse him in gasoline and set him on fire? You know,
Well, that's another thing
and then the
I found funny was many of the things that Patricia tries are just they're very similar to ways in that sort of as you get into the later Halloween movies that they try to kill Michael Myers, right? Setting him on fire, cutting him up, shooting him, all these things that never end up working. So he tries them all in this, in this little short 20 something minutes. So it just yeah, we've talked about some of the ways it's drawn from or borrowed from lots of different horror tropes, and I just found that one to be fascinating, maybe because we are such fans of Halloween.
yeah. Well, that was really good though, and just hilarious. Like when she does set him on fire, and then the gas station attendant comes out with the fire extinguisher. Oh, you ruined it.
And the like $20 on number three, like I got to go pay for it to get you to turn it on.
Yeah, the fact that she has to prepay for the gas, it was good, real good. And then yeah, just the her holding the shotgun to his head in the ambulance, and then in the crematorium, and then it comes out in ashes. It's probably like okay. Um, but there is a question underneath that too, as well. I guess insofar as why didn't they do that before? You know, so there's a question: did that really work? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Um, we're told that before they couldn't kill him, so they encased him in cement or whatever. And now I guess he's broken out of the cement through supernatural strength, or I guess I don't know. We'll find
yeah.
out more about that. Does cremating him work?
Yeah.
Presumably it should, but I guess no guarantees here. And that could be a way in which we're not done with this, I suppose, because there might be further humor to mine there in certain ways. Of
Yeah.
somehow,
Yeah.
like even though you cremated the boogeyman, still not dead. Sorry. And it is interesting to note how we don't see what's behind the mask when it is more established here. I mean, like I don't know. I guess I mean it's pretty well established in Halloween that Michael Myers is wearing a mask, right?
Yes. Yes.
But it never felt to me like there was any meaningful question of what's behind the mask um,
That's right.
in a mystery sense.
You know who's doing it. You know the name of the person. And so I don't know. Yeah, you're right. To this island or the people of this island, is that a mystery we're solving? Who it is? Is it someone that they know? Is it
Yeah,
someone that, I mean, presumably it's somebody that has a history there in this place. But that's why I was so interested with the fact that they just cremated the guy and never looked because the mask is gone, the person's gone. You'll never know who it was. But maybe they did already. Who knows?
yeah. I don't know. And it seems to have worked. What seems to have worked to have shot him with a shotgun? I guess.
Yeah, shot him with the second time from the front with a shotgun. That at least incapacitated him enough where they could strap him down and take him to the crematorium. That seemed to work.
Yeah, yeah. So interesting. We'll see. We'll see if there's more there, and there could be. I do think it's really interesting what the show is doing in terms of playing with these horror premises, and then you have that kind of homage and it often works at a horror level, and then
Yeah.
they find humor in it as well. But it does tie into that third thing in terms of there being some level of mystery here in terms of what's going on with the curse and all of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned in your summary what's up with Evan and Tom. There's more to talk about here.
So, I
Thoughts about
mean,
this?
I guess I am, I guess, optimistically is the wrong word. I think that I am choosing to believe that this is the truth that he's telling Evan at this point, right? You
Yeah,
know, I've seen people say, "Oh, well, she must still be alive. Something happened to her. She, whatever." Lots of speculation out there, but this seemed to be, at least from the way that Matthew Reese played this, the emotion that they both share, the detail he's able to give, the letters that exist. This seems to be the truth of what happens to her. I think we were surprised by the fact that there's a mental institution on this small island that barely has anything. There's, one gas station and two
yeah,
restaurants, and so that's a little interesting thing to explore of who is there and why are they there. But I found this to be in this sort of just oddly, but it worked for me to sort of intersperse with this, slasher movie. We get this sort of connection between Tom and his son that at least Tom has been searching for a long time.
yeah. I feel like that worked, and you know, hmm, you just got me thinking about this because on the surface level, or as I watched through the episode, I was believing Tom. It does undermine the way I was believing him before, right? Like I'd had this thought that maybe it was repressed memories on his part, so he wasn't really lying. It does seem like he was pretty much lying. He was hiding this from his son, and so we have to buy that Evan was young enough that he doesn't really remember. And okay, we can buy that. I can buy that. I want to buy
Yeah,
that. But now, do we believe what we're told here from Tom? Because the motivation for the original lie in just telling Evan that his mother died in childbirth was to spare him from
hmm
knowing this other stuff, I guess, or almost reducing it to the point of irrelevance in a certain way that might make some sense, to say, well, okay, no, she didn't die in childbirth in the sense of bleeding out as she was giving birth, but she had some kind of stroke and was never the same and um, had erratic behavior, and then we had to institutionalize her.
yeah.
And you don't need to know all of that. It'll be easier for you to just believe that your mom died in childbirth. Like maybe when you're an adult, I'll tell you the truth or something. I don't know if he ever told himself that. But now, okay, he says that she died in the home from a brain aneurysm. And that's the thing where there may be a little bit more of a question of whether we believe that in particular.
Yeah.
Because at one level, I want to believe Tom because I don't know. I guess I like the guy. I mean, he's a fictional character, but it's like I like him. I think he's a decent guy. I don't think he's a malicious liar. But could he be still doing some version of dissembling to try to protect his son if it were the case that actually she didn't die and she's still in the mental institution?
Right.
And the biggest thing that makes me think that that might be a live possibility is from a kind of detached point of view. Widow's Bay is the kind of show that now that they told us that there's a mental institution and it's a kind of show that plays with horror tropes, we're going to go there,
We are definitely going to go there.
right? At some point, we're going to go there because there's a treasure trove of horror tropes to play with regard to the insane asylum kind of trope, right?
Yeah.
So from that point of view, it does make me wonder if we shouldn't dismiss the possibility that maybe she is still alive in a way where she's so messed up that Tom almost thinks it's not lying to say she's dead.
Yeah. To your point from that you've been making, I, I almost think some of the lies have almost been, he's telling them they're almost for Tom's benefit, right? He doesn't want to connect the dots that whatever this curse is over the island could somehow be something that contributed to what happened to his wife and of his mother. He doesn't want to think about the fact that, well, because she couldn't leave the island or because there's a curse, that this is what happened to her. That's because of that. He's always been trying to
Yeah.
separate himself from that, particularly up until the last couple of months. So some of those lies have been for his own benefit. He doesn't want to face that. To your point about going there, our next episode is called Emergency Shelter. We know that a big storm is coming. What place might be a convening place big enough to hold everybody on the island? What if we all end up in this in this mental institution and we start to learn about a little bit about what's happening there?
Yeah. What a definite possibility there. Yeah, and it's interesting with Tom, we talked about this from the beginning. I think it works because at the one level from the beginning, he's kind of dismissive of the curse stuff, oh, this is superstitious or whatever. And of course, by this point, he's really come around on believing his own eyes and so on. But with the backstory with his wife, there is that little element where it's like, well, you already have the experience that you've been in denial about, or something like that. But
Yeah.
it would seem that whatever level of denial he's lived his life with regarding that, he's at least been superstitious enough to never let Evan leave the island,
Hmm.
right? So that's where, from the beginning, it does feel like at some level he's believed that his son can't leave. Um, and now he's bought Red Sox tickets.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you think they're going to try to go, or because of what's occurring,
Not
Tom's
now.
going
No.
to,
Not
renege
now.
on that? I think Evan will be understanding and on board. Do we get to the point of Evan believing in all of this
Yeah, I
stuff,
think that
including that he can't leave?
that's one more layer of things still to come, is what Ev is able to learn or uncover about all this. I think they said that it's supposed to happen this weekend, so I just don't think, no, there's no way they're going.
We'll see. Yeah, probably not. I'm just wondering, is Evan going to be mad about that? Is something going to convince him that no, there really is this curse? That means I can't leave the island, and so on. Because
Yeah.
that kid wants to get out of there. He doesn't like this
Oh yeah.
idea that he just has to
He's
stay on the island.
thrilled about the idea of visiting colleges. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know what happened to the young woman that he was hanging out with. Did she just after she discovered that the secret was sad instead of funny? Did she just
Just bolted. Yeah.
leave? She was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I mean, I guess that makes sense. Talking about teenagers. But all right, anything else you want to hit on with this one before we wrap
No,
up here?
no, sir, I'm good.
All right, we're in the home stretch. All of a sudden, got 2 episodes left. So thanks always for listening. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. If so, please do leave a good rating, review, all that good stuff. If you are on YouTube, hit that thumbs up. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We greatly appreciate it. Be sure to check out tvobsessive.com. You can find written work there on all sorts of TV shows. If you want to follow us on social media, search for TV Obsessive and you should find us. And as for the podcast, we'll be back next week continuing to talk about Widow's Bay.
All right, looking forward to that. We will see you then.